I've seen two things break through the noise based on the data and analysis of all of the communications we've done in the past. The things I've really seen work are personalization and video. When there is the word video in the subject line of an email and a play button on an image, the engagement skyrockets compared to other communications.
Welcome to the EverTrue Innovators Podcast, where we meet the innovative voices behind the ideas moving fundraising forward. Hannah, I've got a soft spot for this one, as I am, fun fact about me, a proud alum of MassArt's animation department.
Yeah, you've told me about those commissary season fries more than once.
Well, listen, they were legendary, but this campaign, even more so.
Art is for Everyone wasn't just a message, it was a beautifully executed digital-first campaign.
Indeed, and let's hear from the winners of the Equity-Centered Innovation Award, the Massachusetts College of Art and Design. To kick things off, I'd love to say congratulations on receiving the EverTrue Innovator Award. It was so well written with so much passion, and you included a PDF that matched the branding and visual identity of the innovators, which probably shouldn't be a surprise from an art school. Congratulations. Would you love to introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about yourself first, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. My name is Dana. I am the Associate Director of Advancement Communications at MassArt. I've been at MassArt for over 5 years now and, identify as an artist and creative myself. So I feel pretty close to everything that the MassArt experience is.
I am very excited to talk about the Artists for Everyone campaign and your use of ThankView, which is great. We do have our official warm-up question that we ask everyone, which is, what is one piece of conventional wisdom about either fundraising or stewardship that you secretly disagree with?
I love this question because I disagree with a lot of things. One that really popped into my mind that I have good reasoning behind is this idea that donors give to success, not distress. I've heard someone say, nobody wants to get on a sinking ship. I think that's true in some sense, like to be part of an organization that's successful. But I don't think that it translates well to fundraising appeals. They end up not being super effective because all your asks get softened, everything gets warm and fuzzy. Everyone is afraid to be specific and concrete about what the need is. I don't think we need to manufacture angst that doesn't exist to make a good appeal, but sometimes that distress is essential to the storytelling aspect of things. You can talk about what's going well, but you can also talk about where the need is very specifically. People want to know where their money is going. We could say emerging artists and designers at MassArt are doing incredible things and you can help them keep doing incredible things. And that's the way that a lot of people, I think, approach appeals, whereas I would rather say something like MassArt is a more affordable option than a lot of other art schools. There's still a lot of unmet need. And because of that, your gift could be the difference between someone deciding whether they have to drop out or not. And to some people that may sound like distress, but I guarantee you, and I've seen the numbers on the back end, that always produces better results. And it's true. We're not saying anything that's not true.
I love overall the thought of showing that money has come in. We have seen success. Here is some of the success, but there is still the need. Here is the need. The fact that folks might have to drop out is very powerful. It's a great approach. Let's kick things off with the origins of the Artists for Everyone campaign. While doing some of the research, you mentioned that it's really a core belief to MassArt right now that art is for everyone. My question for you is, how did that philosophy influence your campaign's messaging and execution and even existence as a campaign?
I really enjoy my position because I am in a lot of ways the storyteller of the MassArt Foundation. I'm always thinking about the best and simplest ways to communicate what's so unique about MassArt. Everyone who's part of the community has this sense of this is a really special place. There are really unique things about it, but it's hard to describe sometimes. So my job really is describe it in a way that makes people want to support it. And I think one of the interesting things about that is that, we are unique place in higher education, but we're also like a Boston cultural hub in a lot of ways. So I was kind of trying to brainstorm, how do we communicate that, yes, art is for every deserving student who wants to come to MassArt and pursue an art and design education, and that we can help them with that through scholarship support or other ways of supporting them. But also the institution is opening doors in a lot of ways. One of the things we talk about in the video is pathway programs like Artward Bound, a free 4-year college prep program for high school students in Greater Boston. It's free. It's a pretty serious after-school program. They come in and they make art as high schoolers. And a lot of those people ultimately do enroll at MassArt. We have a ton of Artward Bound alum who come into MassArt after they do that program. And there's scholarships available through that program. We have the Center for Art and Community Partnerships. They do a lot with the neighborhoods in the area, like Roxbury and Dorchester, and they work on public art and murals and art activities. We have the MassArt Art Museum, which is a museum that's free and open to the public here on MassArt's campus. So like, how do you communicate all of that? It's not just the student story, it's the story of what MassArt is as an institution. It was one of those light bulb moments when I was like, art is for everyone. It hits things in so many different corners of what MassArt is doing in a really beautiful way, in a really simple way, which I think is kind of key to communicating a message. What came next was figuring out who should be telling this story. MassArt's president, Mary Grant, is a shoo-in for this. She's so passionate about these ideas, and especially that creative minds are needed everywhere. Anyone should be able to come to MassArt, and the people that come to MassArt can go on and do anything. She talks about that all the time, so I wanted to get her in here to talk about that. Lyssa Palu-ay is the Dean of Justice, Equity, and Transformation at MassArt, so she bears witness to the ways that marginalized students, first-gen students, students of color, people who have more financial need are coming to MassArt and benefiting from what MassArt has to offer. And then, of course, I needed to talk to students because they can speak to the heart of what this is. Morgan, who's in the video, is the student government president. She could speak to access in a very particular way because she's a disabled student. The physical accessibility of the campus became another way to think about art being for everyone. If the campus wasn't accessible, disabled students wouldn't be able to access the art the way that other folks could. So yeah, I think that was the beginnings of where this campaign came from on the idea level.
Thinking still a little broadly about the fact that the campaign was focusing on accessibility and broadening the reach, how did you ensure that message, while very simple, resonated with such a diverse donor base, from alumni to parents, faculty, even friends of the institution?
This video message was meant to be evergreen. Using a digital platform really helps with accessibility and broadening our reach because we can send it to everyone. The cost doesn't change the more emails we add to the list. So that was great. Everyone has digital devices. Everyone is accessing their email. So we didn't have any barriers in terms of the number of folks we could send this to. And I think that also on ThankView, even though the same video went to everybody, everything else about it was personalized to the person who received it in their inbox. We had merge fields for their name, but we also had merge fields for things like their relationship to MassArt. So if they're an alum, it will say, as a MassArt alum, you understand this idea that art is for everyone. That would be different for each constituency. So the messaging being a message that everyone can see themselves in, but then also using those personalization features available on ThankView.
Perfect, and a great use of them. Something that I love to talk about is, I am always curious, talking to different shops, donors have different expectations. There's always budget considerations. You made a bold move to replace a traditional direct mail campaign with a digital video-based approach. Were there any concerns on the team? Were there any concerns from the upper-ups? Any pushback about this shift? And how did you advocate for it?
Yeah, typically in the fall, MassArt sends a fully designed direct mail piece. That cut is a big part of how this campaign came to fruition. We were asked by our department to figure out where we could cut costs this fiscal year. Direct mail was put on the chopping block. I've been the champion for video content in our fundraising. I'm also my department's digital fundraising expert. I'm the biggest advocate for pushing limits, questioning how things have always been done, leaning into new ways of doing things. That's what I love to do. So I was thinking through what can we do to replace that in a TikTok landscape. I think we need to meet people where they are, which is short form video. I'm well equipped to take that on. I've actually directed many fundraising videos during my 5 years at MassArt that folks have really loved. And all of the videos, including this one, are filmed by a MassArt alum who started working with me when she was a student in the film video department. We've been doing these videos together for 5 years now. The response from my department leaders was really like, sure, you do them well most of the time, so let's try it with this and see what happens.
I noticed the production quality was so high, and for that reason, I was curious, was this done in-house? Was it done by a student? And to be done by alum, that's really cool. Why did you choose ThankView as the vehicle for your solicitation? I mean, not just what aspects of the platform made it right, but why ThankView and not, say, YouTube or another video vendor?
Yeah, this is a great question because I've done a lot of videos during my time at MassArt, but this is the first one that we sent through ThankView. It came from thinking about how to break through the noise because people's email inboxes are so clogged. People are not reading emails. People are not opening emails. They're just deleting them before they even open them. So it's like, how do you reach people in that kind of environment? It's really tough. I think a lot of people are grappling with how to do that. It's like we have an important thing to say, but if they never even open the email, how are we going to say it to them? I've seen two things break through the noise based on the data and analysis of all of the communications we've done in the past. The things I've really seen work are personalization and video. When there is the word video in the subject line of an email and a play button on an image, the engagement skyrockets compared to other communications. Through ThankView, we were able to add a lot of personalization. We used a bunch of merge fields for this. The person's name was in the subject line and in the message. We had a merge field for their relationship to the college. The message was short, and the main feature of the email was that moving GIF that ThankView has as an option where they can see a little snippet of the video and there's a play button on there. So really this thing was like tiny direct message so that you don't even have to scroll in the email to see that that video is right there. By using ThankView, we were essentially able to hit all of those key factors that get people's attention in this environment where email inboxes are crowded.
It's great to know the GIF format. We've had conversations about when to use the envelope format because it's a little more formal. Maybe they're delivering something. It's an invitation. But that GIF format to get the most engagement.
I have my student ambassadors do the one-to-one ThankView videos for both solicitations and stewardship. I make them use the GIFs format when they send them, which they hate because they're like, oh, I look weird. So I always tell them to start their video like this, like to do some kind of gesture that makes it so that they will actually like the GIF so that we can use it to send out to folks.
Yeah, kick it off with a wave or jazz hands, and that gets everyone pumped. Talking about the actual video for the campaign, you had an amazing videographer / person who was producing this. You had a great vision behind it, but still the storytelling can be very tricky to get right. So what were some of the key considerations when crafting the specific ThankView video, maybe knowing that it was going to be sent via ThankView versus maybe posting on a site?
Once I had the idea, figuring out who would be a part of it was a big thing. I'm really passionate about ethical storytelling practices. This is an up-and-coming topic in the fundraising space. I think a lot of how that manifests is just facilitating these folks telling their stories on their own and in a comfortable environment. And I'm guiding things. I'm asking the right questions. I'm weaving everything together into a cohesive vision at the end. But in the moment when we're talking, I'm just letting them tell their story and it comes together almost on its own. Ethical storytelling is probably the big thing that I would emphasize there. One thing I want to mention is the students get paid for sharing their stories. If we're saying this is a valuable thing, it's important to the institution, it could potentially benefit the institution as well as other students, it should be valued that way. They don't need to volunteer to share their stories just because they're a scholarship recipient. I pay them for their time. They get to review everything before it goes out. I make sure they have the questions in advance. I make sure they have a lot of time and space during the interview to say what they want to say, even if it's not one of the questions. We skip anything that they don't want to talk about. I'm really guiding the video by asking questions. For example, I asked Morgan what access means to her at MassArt because I knew she would have good things to say about that and that it would fit the theme of the video.
I think what you just said is going to be really fascinating to the audience of this podcast and to people at EverTrue. I just have never had a conversation that was such a considerate and empathetic way to approach the students in terms of paying them. That's really amazing. They're providing a ton of value for the institution and they're being pretty brave. So That's really wonderful. So kudos to you. Great approach. Really
I think a lot of people are also interested in making sure that things are accessible and equitable. And how are we fundraising in a way that is just and equitable? That's a tangible way to do it. If you're asking someone to tell their story, value it in that way. Pay them.
Yeah.
It's a really easy, tangible way to make your storytelling more ethical.
Fantastic. And now from the heart, let's talk the numbers. We're going to put our finance hats on, which I always imagine are old-timey green visors from a movie where an accountant is cranking a physical machine while smoking 50 cigarettes. So talking about the results, your results were great. The reason why I say it was great is not just because there was a success, but specifically what I'm talking about is you mentioned that your campaign delivered a $10.40 return for every dollar spent compared to a 75-cent return from previous years with the direct mail campaign. That's amazing. That is the total game changer. What factors contributed to that ROI?
This is actually a surprisingly simple answer. It's one huge factor, and that's the project budget. Direct mail appeals cost thousands of dollars to design, print, and mail. This video's entire production budget was like $1,500.
Wow.
And, utilize ThankView, which we had anyway, and we're already using for other things. You can do a lot with what you already have. My department said, hey, you need to cut costs. This project's budget was significantly lower than what a direct mail appeals budget would be. By reducing the cost of the project significantly, the ROI skyrocketed.
Congrats on that ROI, because that's a really, really amazing number to hit, and ultimately meant so much more that was being raised. It went right to the institution. That's a really wonderful number to hear. We don't often get to hear the numbers when it comes to ThankView campaigns, so that's really great. One of the standout moments from this campaign was re-engaging a long-lapsed donor who ended up giving a $10,000 gift. Can you share more about that donor's journey and what made this campaign the one that brought them back?
Yes, this was huge. We were sitting in a staff meeting and gift processing folks were going through some gifts that had come in that they had questions about. One of them was like, hey, so we got this $10,000 fidelity gift from this donor. Does anyone know where this came from? Because it kind of came out of nowhere. I had a feeling about it and I started digging into data to figure out what had this person actually been sent recently that could have prompted this. Saw that he was on the list for this appeal. Then I went and dug into his account and realized that he used to give consistently, was a consistent year-over-year donor, and then stopped and hadn't given since 2018. And he never opened emails from MassArt. We could see that they were not opened. But this email was different. Something about this made him click on an email from MassArt when he has not clicked on emails from MassArt in years. I could see through ThankView that he opened it, he watched the video and clicked through. The fidelity gift was initiated very shortly after that data was recorded. He's a bit of an enigma. Our gift officers have been trying to get in touch with him since then, and no one has spoken to him. But it is very clear that he responded to this campaign. And we did have one of our wonderful student ambassadors make him a personal thank you to send over, which was also opened. Hopefully he feels appreciated for that incredible gift.
That's something we always talked about at ThankView. It's a medium that people enjoy watching. It feels incredibly personal, but it's something they're ultimately able to enjoy and experience on their time in a very private way. If someone feels uncomfortable on the phone, this is still a way to give them all the feels, all the gratitude without necessarily having to make them feel uncomfortable. So, but that being said, I hope you find out who the mysterious Mr. Moneybags is and get to the bottom of this mystery. From your submission, something that we learned was happening at MassArt was that email saturation and deliverability issues were a major challenge before this campaign. How did shifting to ThankView impact email engagement metrics? And do you see it being a permanent change in your solicitation strategies moving forward?
The big thing that jumped out to me in terms of engagement metrics for this was the click rate. The click-through rate, once folks actually opened the email, was much higher than what we usually see. What that tells me is that people were really interested in clicking through and watching this video. The appearance of the ThankView platform, the way the email is delivered in the inbox, the short message, that animated GIF preview that we've talked about a little bit here with the play button, I think all really facilitates the audience taking that action. We definitely saw more people engaging with this ThankView video than we typically see with our emails.
So that leads me into the next question, which is, do you think the success of what's been going on with ThankView may mark the end of direct mail at MassArt, or is there still place for print in your strategy?
I don't have a dramatic, like, yes, this is the end. There is definitely still a place for print in our fundraising strategy. We are using PledgeMine, another EverTrue product, for more key direct mail communications. We're doing thank you postcards a few times a year to folks who have made a gift. We're doing gift anniversaries in the mail, which is something we haven't done in several years. But again, really just thinking more about the individual donor's journey as opposed to just sending out mass mailings 4 times a year, or whatever a typical fundraising strategy might look like. I collect these great stories from students, and then they can be used in different platforms. Morgan, the student who was in the Art is for Everyone video, I featured her story again in a different light in a print communication for our calendar year-end PledgeMine mailing. Same person, but here it's a couple pull quotes from an interview, whereas there it's pictures of her artwork and quotes from her about how scholarship has supported her journey at MassArt. Completely different, but I found a great story and was able to use it in multiple ways.
I bet the recipients too will start to pick up on that. You're kind of following along with someone's journey through multiple mediums of outreach. And I think that's really cool. If another advancement team wanted to replicate your approach, your campaign, what advice would you give them? And what were the pitfalls that you may have discovered along the way that they can avoid?
Yeah, we were talking about production stuff and how there's no production team. It was the videographer and myself. Even if you have a lot of resources and can bring in a production team, make sure you have someone who is a storyteller for your institution, because that person should be the one coming up with, what questions are we going to ask and who do we need to talk to? Those are important parts of how this ends up being something that feels really authentic. Spend a lot of time thinking about that meaningful messaging. Don't just think about the glitz and glam of how a nice video could turn out. Stay away from corporate sounding branded lingo. People like to hear people speaking authentically. I didn't script any of this. I asked questions and then pulled out the best parts. I think people speaking from the heart is what reaches other people. If you're reading off of your institution's brand guide, it's not going to reach people quite as well. You can do a lot with a little. You don't need a giant budget and production company to make something cool happen. Try to keep it short, try to keep it snappy. We've been talking about this a lot too, but there's a lot of incredible ways to use technologies like ThankView, because once the video was done and ready to go, it was pretty intuitive and user-friendly to put that thing on ThankView and get the message out. We basically just customized to MassArt branding and colors, wrote a very short and direct message that made an ask, had those few key merge fields in there, sorted out the data on our end, and that was that communication ready to go. I definitely think ThankView has a lot to offer in terms of being a really user-friendly and intuitive platform for things like this.
Looking to the future, What is next for MassArt's advancement team? Are there other areas where you're looking to experiment with new strategies, new technologies?
Yeah, this one is funny for me because I'm always experimenting. As someone who's a writer and a communicator, I'm often thinking about getting the messaging just right. But getting the messaging just right 4 times a year and sending it out to everyone is not going to be an effective approach. So really thinking about the ways that we can personalize to the donor journey, sending out thank you postcards every couple of months, sending out gift anniversaries to show that we're thinking about the individual donor's journey, supporting the gift officers more in terms of being able to provide them with messaging they should be using. People want to feel like you're reaching out to an individual. Your writing can be the most beautiful in the world, but if they don't feel the message is meant for them, it's not going to reach them. That's my strategy this year. We're already seeing good results, but I'll be digging into the data more when the fiscal year is out.
Keep experimenting. That is certainly the life we've lived for the last 10 years. It's been about 10 years since we founded ThankView. Never forget, ThankView was originally developed for wedding thank yous. And it was essentially a chance coffee with my co-founder's old dean at Boston University, where the dean said, "What are you doing? What are you talking about wedding thank yous? You got to talk to our advancement team, our stewardship team, donor relations. They're going to love that." If we had stayed the course, who knows where we'd be right now. I wouldn't be making this podcast, I'll tell you that.
Always thinking out of the box in creative ways. And I feel like my way of working meshes really well with these new technologies that y'all are working on.
Appreciate it. I'm actually driving tomorrow to a 3D printing fabrication company here in Brooklyn that's making custom trophies for us. So I'm going to pick them up tomorrow. So those will be coming to your office, along with trying to get some purple packing peanuts to make it happen. There might be a little bottle of bubbly in there. We're working on it. If you ever watch anything for ThankView and there's someone wearing a unicorn mask in it, that's me. It's in the closet because we had a friend stay here the other night and she's like, "I'm sorry, there's just really creepy unicorn mask on the
there's a
floor."
unicorn staring at me.
I said, "I'm so sorry. That's a big part of my job," but cool. Well, Dana, this has been an absolute pleasure. I want to congratulate you again on the award. I want to get you excited for the physical award that is going to also arrive in the office.
I didn't know there was a physical award. Now I am excited.